Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Loubarri Real Estate Podcast. And for all you guys out there, meaning my LLs, my Loubarri listeners, my fellow real estate investors and fellow real estate enthusiasts, welcome back as well to the Loubarri Real Estate Podcast, where we deep dive into the world of multifamily real estate investing. So if you're a seasoned investor or just getting started on your journey, this podcast will provide insights, strategies, and a little bit, maybe a lot of bit of inspiration to help you along the way. And I gotta say, today is a wonderful day because we are celebrating a huge milestone with our 100th episode. Now gotta celebrate that one. So to celebrate, we're going to have on a special guest. He goes by the name of Brandon Rizzo. Brandon is an accomplished general management and operations leader with over 14 years of experience leading business operations and developing exceptional teams. And as a management and operations expert, he has worked for admired brands like Apple and WeWork. He was also part of the founding team that launched the critically acclaimed high-profile fast casual restaurant PBJLA in Grand Central Market, downtown Los Angeles. Brandon is also a licensed real estate professional in Texas. So without further ado, Brandon, how you doing, my brother?
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. It's hearing that intro with the 100th episode, I feel special here. Like you
Hey,
chose
man,
me.
you are. You absolutely are, man. You're a good friend.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome to be here. Love the podcast, love what you're doing. Obviously, you and I hop on investor meetup quite frequently and get to, connect on there. But it's so great to be part of your podcast, and I'm just blessed and honored to accept the invite. So happy to get into it today.
Man, it's a pleasure having you. And thank you in advance for already being on here for the 100th episode. And this is going to be like the first episode that goes on YouTube. We're still going to be streaming on all of the platforms, but this one specifically is the first one on YouTube. So
Sweet.
we got to bring it. Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. So let's get into it, shall we? You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I did some digging. So I made sure that the questions are tailored to you and your experiences. So I want to know, and I want you to let the audience know, growing up in Twinsburg, Ohio, how was that, and how did that develop your mindset to who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I grew up outside of Cleveland. Twinsburg is kind of small, diverse, socioeconomically, ethnically, small town kind of situated between Akron and Cleveland. I grew up there, and my parents were, you know, kind of like blue collar mentality people. They grew up, in outside of Toledo in like a small town. My mom was had five brothers and sisters. My dad had 10 brothers and sisters. So you can imagine that kind of growing up with all this craziness. They decided when they raised me and my brother to kind of, make a tight knit family, just the four of us. And they raised us and instilled in us these blue collar kind of hardworking mentality that's been ingrained with me as far as I can remember. And so, growing up, doing everything from mulch, carrying mulch in the wheelbarrow with my dad, working on the yard and doing stuff like that, to just being kind of, blessed with hardworking parents, that really cared about raising us right. So those values, those principles I take with me and have inspired and kind of shaped the way I've lived throughout my life. And growing up, I was in sports a little bit. As I got older, found a love for music, and my brother and I both dove into the music life, and we were in choir and competed throughout school and high school. And then as we got to college, we were both in like bands and performing on stage and studio and recording. And when I went to college, I went to Chicago and met some guys that I went to college with, and we formed this band called Fly Phoenix. And that was really like the making of the next 10 years of my life, performing on all these different stages, recording music, meeting tons and tons of cool music artists throughout the country. And so I would say, growing up in Twinsburg kind of shaped me for that, both from the way I was raised to the experiences I had in school and doing all these kind of like activities with music and sports and stuff, and learning how to work as a team and get the most out of people, bond with them, develop a relationship with them, and rely on each other. And those things really shaped me and set me up for success later in life, I think.
I love that. I love that. And throughout that whole period, and continuing into your adult life now, what are some of the skills that you've picked up both on the personal side and also on the professional side?
Yeah, I would say it's funny. A couple of years ago, I had this manager at one of my jobs, and she had us do this user manual activity. And it was like the whole idea was to create a user manual on what it's like to work with you so that you could give to your teammates on your team, be like, almost like you're buying a new appliance and like, how do I use this thing? And so it kind of got me to think outside the box about how would I describe myself and give people the tools to like get the best out of me and vice versa. And so I kind of settled on like what my core principles were, because I kind of knew I had these principles growing up, like we just talked about, but I never really like sat down and wrote out what were my top ones. And so I sat down and I wrote out, my top three, and then from there, subsets of each. And I landed on the following three. And so the first one's mastery, and that kind of encompasses the learning mentality of like I've always been a huge learner. I've taught myself how to play instruments. I've taught myself all different kinds of things throughout life, and I've always had this competitive spirit to be the best, and be the best for myself, like the best version of myself, keep getting better at my craft, keep getting better at the things that I learn. And so mastery is a big one. The other one was freedom, kind of the cultural sense, but also the individual sense of being able to express one's ideas, be an artist, explore freely, free speech, like all kinds of stuff that kind of go with freedom and pursuing the happiness of life and the full meaning in life. And then integrity. And so integrity is kind of the third one, and the one I wanted to land on, because to answer your question, I think integrity is something that I have always carried and been almost hard on myself to deliver on. When I say I'm going to meet somebody at a certain time or set up a meeting, or if I commit to a project or something, I want to see that through, and my word is my bond sort of, mentality, and making sure that you don't lie to people, that you're honest, you're trustworthy, people can depend on you, you're loyal and accountable to your own actions and stuff. And so integrity has always been a huge one. And I try to develop that skill and get better at it through my life. Try to get people to give me feedback when I don't see my blind spots. So I'd say integrity is a big one. And then time management is something that I learned at a very early age, being involved in activities in school and growing up and being part of, my band or, sports or whatever. That time management piece is so crucial as you go further in life, go on to do career, or other things. If you can't manage your own schedule, you can't manage your time effectively, it just has a knock on spiraling effect that, gives you these collateral effects that could be damaging to your day or to your, how, whatever you're trying to do. And so time management is another big one. Yeah, I guess those two really stick out to me in my top of my mind right now.
I absolutely love all of those, like mastery and then freedom to, being able to like unlock your mind,
Yeah,
and integrity. I really resonate with integrity because it's doing the right thing even when no one else is around.
absolutely.
So not only are you holding others to a higher standard, but you're also holding yourself to that same standard, which speaks volumes for your character.
Hmm.
So I absolutely love that. And time management, that's how you keep things on track.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, I mean, it's funny. I used to always, in that user manual, going back to the user manual thing for a second, one of the things that I put in it was kind of like my philosophy for how I like to manage people or work with people. And I think self-awareness is one of the most important things that you can have as a skill and as something to learn. and not just necessarily for yourself and your own awareness of who you are and how you come across, but for others. So if you can't be self-aware to understand, take a step back and listen, or take a step back and say, hey, what am I doing wrong? What can I do to better? That can be very prohibitive in your growth, your development, or even, trying to get a promotion or whatever the case may be. Those things can prohibit you. And so I tried to put that in that piece to say to other people that I work with, hey, I'm here as an accountability partner for you, but you're also an accountability partner for me. And the more we can help each other be self-aware of our blind spots, of our roadblocks, to help each other clear those, the better we'll be in the long run in developing this relationship and helping each other achieve our goals. So yeah, for sure, time management's huge, and so is self-awareness.
I love that, because those are definite keys to success right there, especially, having an accountability partner who is also, your accountability partner, and you're theirs as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps you lift each other up, because you can point out each other's weaknesses and strengths and be able to build on all of those. So absolutely. So my next question is, how did you get into real estate?
Whew. Well, I would say part by accident, maybe part destiny that I ended up here. I remember, it's funny, back in maybe like middle school, at that time, I was obviously in music and doing arts and stuff, but I always had this interest in business. And I remember one day I asked my mom or somebody to take me to the public library, and I was in the public library, and I'm like going through the business section, and I found this book. I don't even remember the name of it. Maybe it was like How to Start Your Own Business or Entrepreneur. It's just like one of those generic title type books. And I picked this thing up, and I'm like sitting down in between classes, and I'm taking notes and like learning all these like things about business. I haven't really thought about that for a long time until very recently, when I was thinking about, what made me so interested in business. And I guess I just always kind of was drawn to it because, growing up, like we talked about, the blue collar spirit of my parents. My dad he was an operator. He worked for McDonald's for decades. And he was this, just like every time I saw him, he just was always grinding and had this, you know, almost like otherworldly, obviously as a kid, you look up to your parents, but I just was so admiring of his ability to do what he did on a day in, day out basis, and then also come home and bust his butt in the yard, or working on the house, or getting stuff done for the family. And so I think I always had this slight little, like thing that was always drawing me towards business. And so I think that was the very early stages. But as I got older, and, I have been doing my music thing for so long, pursuing that, and doing these other jobs along the way and getting into operations, I landed at WeWork at the end of my 20s, early 30s. And obviously the story's been written about WeWork for so long, all the documentaries and movies that have come out since. But I got in there the last year that the CEO was around, and Adam Newman, the founder. And so I got to experience that last year, and then the years after were transitioned through the pandemic and kind of the company reemerging and trying to find itself, and then the turnaround after bankruptcy and all these crazy things. And that was my first like quasi real estate job. And I say quasi real estate job because it's like really a blend of operations, hospitality, events, real estate, because you're working with the property management teams from the commercial side as the tenant, but you're also selling this subscription as a service model of office space and co-working. And at the same time, you have this hospitality element, this service oriented element of helping the members, your patrons to the business, making them feel like they're part of a club or a membership, and having put on the events for them, having to plan, little get-togethers or connections, creating, networking stuff. So there are all kinds of things that were going on throughout my time there that really showed me a lot, and what the possibilities are in terms of not only like hospitality and all those things, but of real estate. And so I got very into real estate at that time and decided for myself that this is definitely a passion, but also kind of a meaningful thing that I want to work towards in life. And how do I get to my own investment goals or real estate oriented goals down the road? And so that kind of birthed this interest. And I was there for 5, 6 years. And then I moved over to where I'm at now at Evernest Property Management, and I do business development. But I started as the operations director here for Texas, and I just deepened that experience in property management and hospitality, and working, one-on-one with clients and all of that. But also, got my license, started meeting folks like you and some of the people that we get on the calls with, and just building those relationships and that network. And I just love this business because there's so many crazy possibilities of things to do, things to learn. Talk about being a learner of life. I mean, real estate is one of the best things to get into if you really want to become a learner of all these different possibilities. So really, I mean, that's what's piqued the interest, was working there, and then, ended up, kind of here by accident.
Okay. Okay. That kind of answers the next question I was actually going to ask you. So the next question I was going to ask you is, what is like one mistake during your career that turned out to be a blessing in disguise?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that answer fits the mold, or if you would like to kind of expound on it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to make mistakes along the way, right? You hear the greatest of the greats, Steve Jobs, whoever it is, talk about how making mistakes is almost part of the course, or foundational to becoming successful at any given path in life. And I could name so many different things that I've made mistakes on. I think about little interactions here and there all the time of things that shaped me to become a better manager, a better leader, things that helped me teach me a skill. In an interview setting, if somebody asks me that, I sometimes will refer back to the self-awareness thing. There was a one time where I was working with a customer in early days of my job at Apple, and I was working with a customer, and they'd been taking up so much of my time, and I just got to a point where I was frustrated. I was like answering the questions, but they weren't getting it, and it was back and forth, back and forth, and I kind of just dumped them off with another person. And then later on, that person pulled me aside and had this conversation with me that was like, look, what you did was not right. We expected you to kind of like see this through, and you didn't give us in context. And so there's like those little interactions like that stick out to me along the way, that helped me learn that self-awareness, like helped me learn to be better at, seeing things through, or accountability and feedback. But I also think about big things as well. And, we talked a little bit about in the bio, being a part of PBJLA. And that was just a completely transformative experience in my life, to be a part of that group of guys. It was me and the three founders, Brad, Pavond, and Jimmy. And they asked me to help them launch the restaurant. And there were tons of mistakes the four of us made along the way that we had to learn as, business owners do. You're doing this thing, you're trying to prove a concept that hasn't really been tested or tried as a restaurant. And, you do all different kinds of things that don't work. And then you have to learn from them, whether it's menu items that people don't like, whether it's, bad reviews that then could make or break your restaurant, and having to go through and try to reach out to those people and fix that. There are just so many things that you learn along the way, and you have to be willing to have the courage to make those mistakes, because if you just try your best to prevent them and not take any risks or any chances, you might never see what's on the other side and become ultimately what you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because if you don't take a chance, if you don't take the risk, then there's no way to fail, and there's no way to make mistakes. And the truth is, like you said, you never know, but you have to try. And in trying and making mistakes, you learn the lessons, and you get better by taking the lessons that you learn and then implementing them into newer and better strategies. Because now you know what doesn't work, so that you can try and try again, until you find out what works. It's failing your way to the top. That's how life works. We all got to make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's just like riding a bike.
Yeah.
No one ever rides a bicycle and just gets it right the first time. No, you're going to fall, you're going to scrape your knee, but you get back up and then you learn how to balance.
Exactly.
All right. So next we're gonna slide into a little different mode now. So if you can give your younger self one piece of advice about investing or life, what would it be?
Well, I think of that meme, that goes around where it's like me trying to tell my younger self to invest in real estate, like 12 years old or whatever. I think of that meme because honestly, if I knew then what I know now, obviously hindsight is amazing. I would go back and totally invest in real estate much sooner. I didn't become a homeowner until, my mid 30s. And if I go back, something as simple as that, being a young kid in the city of Chicago out trying to make it in the music biz and living the nightlife. You just whatever. I'm just gonna rent an apartment, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm living for the now, not necessarily for the future. But had I known now what I know back then, I probably would have tried to do something, whether it was buy a condo and rent it out or, you know, learn how to make a down payment so that I could, afford my own place or do something to that extent, just to get into it and start to build wealth for myself. I think that's one thing that I would have did back then and would tell myself, to learn these things. Back then, so I graduated college in 2010, and that was right after the financial crisis. I remember being in college during that financial crisis and seeing it on the TVs and like listening to it every day. And I'd be working at whatever day job I was doing to make ends meet. And, I think I worked at Circuit City once, which it doesn't even exist anymore, but I was watching it on the TVs every day. It's just like constantly being kind of beat into your head. And so coming out of that, obviously there was this long recovery period and everybody was afraid of what came next and all the, knock-on effects of the things that transpired. And so I would love to have maybe learned something about real estate back then, whether it was gotten a real estate license or something and just kind of got involved in that process. But, also I don't regret what I did, lived my life, did what I did, and, I'm for the better for it as well, so I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't make those choices. So you can't necessarily always look back and say what if and live your life that way with those, kind of thoughts. But yeah, for sure, would have definitely gotten into it sooner had I known what I know now. How about yourself?
Yeah, I would definitely say, hey, don't waste your time doing this and doing that. This is where we want to go. This is where we want to be, and this is what you need to do to get there sooner.
Yeah.
But in the same token, it's exactly as what you said earlier. Like the choices that we made before are the choices that helped shape us to who we are now. And if we didn't make those mistakes, and if we didn't make those choices earlier on in our lives, who knows where we would be?
Hmm.
We may not even be here, even if our future self told us to go back and do those things and we actually did them. We may not even, that might have completely changed our paths.
Yeah.
We never know. But one thing we do know is, like you said, we're here now and we are who we are. And the path is beautiful.
Yeah, I would say too, like to not be afraid. I can't beat that enough. I know I said this earlier, but to not be afraid to make those choices, especially when you're earlier on, because you have less kind of context or you haven't gotten as far as you would be. And so you have more freedom almost to make those choices and take those risks and learn from them. And so, whether that's going and studying abroad, I think that's one thing I would have done. I know my wife did that, and it was, a huge experience for her life. And now, as I've gotten older and I travel a lot more and I like to go overseas and experience other cultures and stuff, that's something that I would encourage younger people to do, like take those risks. go study abroad, go travel, learn who you are and what you want to pursue. Because I think American society, especially millennials, were raised with this thing like you can pursue your dreams, you can be anything you want to be. And that is a good message to a certain extent, but it also doesn't really give you the tools or experiences or things that you need to do to achieve that, right? And there are people who maybe they don't want to be the person that starts a business. They just want to work for one, but they want to pursue these other meaningful things that will give them meaning in their life. So it's almost like you have to find what gives you meaning and take risks and chances, pursuing those things rather than just thinking about success and whatever that may be, material or otherwise. What is it that gives you meaning, and develop a life around that, and then see where that leads. Take the chances when you can to make those choices. And then from there, learn and grow and experience what you do and make mistakes, and then, pivot if you have to. Don't be afraid to start over and change, you know?
That you're absolutely right. We can't be afraid to start over. We can't be afraid to, go after what we want. And we have to define success how we want it as individuals, because it looks different for everyone else. So some people might want a big house on the beach with a G-Wagon and, a Bugatti outside. But some people may want just a simple life, just like, hey, I got like a little shack in the country and I'm surrounded by my family. Or some people may just want to travel, or some people may be car guys or musicians or artists, whatever they want. Define success on your own
Yeah,
terms
I love
and
that.
be brave enough to go after it.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. On your own terms. Yeah, 100%.
All right. So my next question is, how do you help others?
So I like to give back by, service. So one of the things I do is I'm part of the Big Brother, Big Sister mentorship program. I work with a mentee. My job, obviously, I'm helping clients. I like to try to connect people, give back to the community. That's one of the great things about real estate is it is still a community kind of oriented job, even with the advent of technology and all these things that have shaped our lives in every industry to some extent. Real estate agents and property managers and lenders and those types of people, they still are giving a huge service to their community that, is connecting them to resources, but also teaching them. There's a huge component that I think is often overlooked when people think of real estate agents or think of property managers or whatever as just these people who, are just trying to get my money for selling my house. But that's not the case. A big component of this job and the requirements to continue doing it is the education. You have to continue educating yourself. You have to keep learning the law and all these things that affect the license, for one, but you also have to teach your clients. If you're not teaching your clients and giving them insights into how they, need to make these choices, then you're not doing a good job. And if you're not connecting people, regardless of the outcome of how it looks for you, then you're also not doing your job to some extent. Whether if I can spend 10 minutes with a prospective client and not even get their business, but connect them to somebody that's going to help them achieve what they want to do, that's rewarding to me as well, because that was doing something good that ultimately helped people around me and my society and my community. So I would say that part of what I do is very rewarding. The mentorship, I try to give when I can, whether that's whatever money I can contribute to causes that I believe in. Um, and then, just try to inspire and be a good person every day and touch other people's lives. I mean, always trying to, better myself, whether it's through reading, you know, meeting people and getting out in the world and learning from others. So, yeah, all different types of ways, but I'd say those few examples come to mind.
I absolutely love that. That was heartwarming. That really was, because that's such a fulfilling feeling
Hmm.
that you get when you actually help someone get what they want, and you making sure that they're educated and that they know. So you're not just giving a man a fish, you're teaching a man to fish at the same time. So I absolutely love that. Now, we're going to get into my favorite part of the podcast where we talk about what real estate can do for you. So Brandon, I want to ask you, and this is all personal, but like, what has real estate been able to do for your life and the ones around you?
For one, it's taught me so many skills and so many valuable insights into all different aspects of life. If I step back to the starting a WeWork job, that in and of itself was almost like an acceleration of a lot of the things I had learned to that point in my career and kind of kicked it into high gear. And so whether it was, event planning or, analyzing P&Ls and financials for business, like those kind of things shaped me where I am now. And being able to look at a business and see its health and know what buttons and levers to pull, I think those things are, that's one thing it's given me. It's definitely helped me become a better person. We just talked about that piece about giving back and how the education component is so important. Being involved in continually pursuing that education piece and learning more. That's something that's really important to me in life in general. I love all kinds of stuff, whether it's history, science, or mysticism. We talked a little bit about this last time we spoke, but like mysticism and spiritual things like that has always had a heavy influence on my life. I love reading those texts. I love gleaning insights from the ancients, whether it's ancient cultures or history, and thinking about that in my day-to-day life. I was walking with my wife the other night. We were walking our dog, and I was like, I just like had this thought about how people lived, back 100 years ago, 200 years ago, when they went out for a walk at night. And it's like that stuff weighs on my mind, even when I'm not trying to think about it. And it just pops into my head, and I'm like, man, this has really like affected who I am. And so that constant pursuit of education, evolution, and what I can teach myself to continually like work on myself, that's another thing I think real estate's continued to fuel in me, that's already been there to some extent, but has accelerated because it's a requirement of the job. So now I have to find new topics that maybe I don't know about, or new things that I can learn in my career, my job, and help others in that way. So I think real estate is great for anybody that wants to pursue something like that. Relationship driven business, obviously, working one on one with people, sitting across the table from people and talking about what their goals are. These kind of things is part of what is baked into it that you don't necessarily see, the advertisement of real estate.
I absolutely love that, Brandon. I absolutely love that. Now, since we're at the end of the podcast, where can the audience reach you? Where can you be found?
Yes. So I am on LinkedIn under Brandon Rizzo with the red suit coat. You can find me at Rizzo Feels, my last name, RIZZO FEELS, Rizzo Feels on Instagram. You can also find that on other places like YouTube and stuff. You'll see some of my music. I'm a music artist as well, but also here to help anybody who's interested in property management, real estate, need connected, that kind of stuff. To speak a little bit about Evernest, we do have a great agent referral program for any agents, brokers listening. You can refer clients to us, take part of our referral program at evernest.co. And you can also reach out to me. I'll make sure to give my link if people want to connect and learn more about that as well. We do traditional single family, multifamily property management, specialize in it in about 35 markets throughout the US. We help investors, we help ma and pa homeowners who want to rent their place. And we can also connect people with other folks in the real estate, whether that's a lender or real estate agent, whatever you need. But yeah, more so just happy to connect with folks and help them however I can.
Thank you. Thank you. You heard that, ladies and gentlemen. So if you guys need any of these services, feel free to reach out to Brandon, and he will give you an amazing service that will help you achieve your goals, whatever they may be. So reach out to Brandon, and he is going to be a shining light in your life.
Yes. I love that.
Well, Brandon, thank you for being a part of the 100th episode of the Loubarri Real Estate Podcast. It has been an absolute honor having you here as a guest and being able to pick your brain and giving some of your amazing insights and letting the audience, like have firsthand experience of your experience and what you've been through. So we greatly appreciate that, and it has been absolutely awesome having you on the show.
It's been awesome to be here, and I appreciate you thinking of me and asking me to do this. So happy to do it again sometime soon. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely, man. You're more than welcome back. We're gonna link up again. Round 2 coming soon. But everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Loubarri Real Estate Podcast. It has been an awesome journey for the last 99 episodes, and get ready for many more with more interviews, more insights. And remember, we're here to help you grow, to help you learn about this industry, and to guide you along the way and help make you better. So if you enjoyed this podcast or you have any likes, comments, concerns, or you want to give us an idea of what you guys want to see next, reach out to us and we'll make it happen. And with that being said, we love you all and be blessed. And we'll see you next Tuesday.